Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
Good morning, everybody. It is really nice to see your faces. Welcome back to the sanctuary. Very glad to be here myself. And we are ready to share. We think we had maybe a little too much coffee this morning. So if my brain gets a little bit quicker than my heart, you'll understand where that's coming from. So little note to Kelly, maybe not that second cup in the morning. Right. Welcome everybody, and welcome Mary. I see a post from a first-time visitor in the sanctuary. So welcome, Mary. Glad to have you here. All righty. All right, so I would like to share our statement of purpose at Awakening Together. We are an assembly of equals, joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self, within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. We seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And we'll settle down with a little bit of prayer. That will be a good thing. Okay. Dear Father, we thank you. Thank you for this time together. We are so grateful to be able to join together for this common purpose, that we might awaken to the incredible, magnificent love that we are. We do that by joining and focusing on what we truly want, which is to grow in the awareness of love. As we learn to set aside the focus on this individual I that separates and leads to loneliness. I ask that you guide all my words and that everyone might hear what it is that they need to hear that will be most helpful to guide them home to love's presence. Amen. Okay. Our reading today is from A Course in Miracles, and it's lesson 127. And the lesson is There is no love but God's. And Wanda has graciously come into the sanctuary this morning to read for us. I really appreciate it, Wanda. And I will turn over the mic to her, and it is all yours.
Good morning. What a pleasure to be here today. And the lesson, the reading for today, there is no love but God. Perhaps you think that different kind of love are possible. Perhaps you think there is a kind of love for this and a kind of for that. A way of loving one, another way of loving still another. Love is one. It has no separated parts and no degrees, no kinds, no levels, no diversities, and no distinctions. It is like itself, unchanged throughout. It never alters with a person or circumstance. It is the heart of God and also of His Son. Love meaning is obscure to anyone who thinks that love can change. He does not see that changing love must be impossible. And thus he thinks that he can love at times and hate another at times. He also thinks that love can be bestowed on one and yet remain self, although it is withheld from other. To believe these things of love, it's not to understand it. If it could make such distinctions, it will have to judge between the righteous and the sinner and perceive the Son of God in a separate part. Love cannot judge, and it is one in self. It looks all as one. Its meaning lies in oneness, and it must elude the mind that thinks of it as partial or in part. There is no love but God, and all of love is His. There is no other principle that rules where love is not. Love is a law without an opposite. It wholeness, it's the power holding everything at one. The link between the Father and the Son, which holds them both forever and the same. No course whose purpose is to teach you to remember that you really are could fail to emphasize that there can never be a difference in what you really are and what love is. Love meaning is your own and shared by God Himself. For what you are, it's what He is. There is no love but His. And what He is everything there is. There is no limit placed upon Himself, and so are you unlimited as well. No law the world obeys can help you grasp love's meaning. What the world believed was made to hide love meaning and to keep it dark and secret. There is not one principle the world upholds but violates the truth of what love is and what you are as well. Seek not within the world to find yourself. Love is not found in darkness and in death. Yet, it is perfectly apparent to the eyes that see and ears that hears love's voice. Today, we practice making free your mind of all the laws you think you must obey, of all the limits under which you live, and all the change that you think are part of human destiny. Today, we take the largest single step this course requests in your advance toward its established goal. If you achieve the faintest glimmering of what love means today, you have advanced in distance without measure and in time without the count of years to your release. Let us together then be glad to give some time to God today and to understand there is no better use for time than this. For 15 minutes twice today, escape from every law in which you now believe. Open your mind and rest. The world that seems to hold you prisoner can be escaped by anyone who does not hold it dear. Withdraw all values you have placed upon its meager offering and senseless gift, and let the gift of God replace them all. Call to your Father, certain that His voice will answer. He Himself has promised this, and He Himself will place a spark of truth within your mind wherever you give up a false belief, a dark illusion of your own reality and what love means. We will shine through your idle thoughts today and help you understand the truth of love. In loving gentleness, He will abide with you as you allow his voice to teach love meaning to your clean and open mind. And he will bless the lesson with his love. Today, the legion of future years of waiting for salvation disappears before the timelessness of what you learned. Let us give thanks today while we are spared a future like the past. Today we leave the past behind us, never more to be remembered. And we raise our eyes upon a different present, where a future dance unlike the past in every attribute. The world in infancy is newly born, and we will watch it grow in health and in strength to shed its blessing upon all who comes to learn, to cast aside the world they thought was made in hate to beloved enemy. Now are they all made free along with us. Now are they all our brothers in God's love. We will remember them throughout the day because we cannot live a part of us outside our love if we should know ourselves. At least 3 times an hour, think of one who makes the journey with you and who came to learn what you most learned. And as he comes to mind, give him this message from yourself. I bless you, brother, with the love of God, which I will share with you, for I will learn the joy lessons that there is no love for God and yours and mine and everyone's. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. That was beautiful. I appreciate you reading for us today. And there's a lot in there. I believe that title that I chose for our gathering today was, I can't remember it because that's what happens to me. It's gone. It was something about the contrast, right, between the one love and the many problems that we face. And I think what kind of brought this up and what brought this to mind for me was 500 days. I'm working through 500 days, and we had an exercise where we listened to a video of Leo's about judgment, and then there was a little exercise in order for us to write out these judgments. And I was willing to do that. And one of the things that was very interesting to me was the amount. I really was surprised because, you know, I kind of had an idea of myself as being a little bit more advanced than this, but that always gets me. So we had a really good sized list, right? So the first thing you were to do was to write your judgment of others. And it was kind of a stream of consciousness where you just allowed it. For me, how it showed up was in experiences with other people. And so these images would just come up and the people would be there, and I could recall what that brought up for me, whatever that circumstance was. And it was quick. I mean, it was, you know, really rapid. So I had to write pretty fast. But I came up on, when I was listing my judgments of others, there was 132. And that just kind of blew me away. I did not think that there would be that many, right? first of all, I did not ever think I had the vocabulary to list that many different types of judgments. And so then you settle with that, and then you go to judgments that you'd had of yourself. And it came up in the same way. It was just these kind of memories of dialogue with myself, coming up against circumstances at work or circumstances with family members or friends, and then the feeling plus the label would come up at that time. And so for me, the number of those on myself was 68, which was a bit less than what I had judged on other people, which made sense to me, right? Because we judge in order to decrease that that judgment, that self-hatred, that sense of separation that we hold for ourselves. We try and throw it out there. So in throwing it out there, I could see why my numbers were a little bit lower than what I had put on other people. And then the last one that came to me, it was, I had done this piece in the morning, and then I had an interaction with my beloved. And so I was given the direction that tonight before you go to bed, you get to make your list just of the judgments that you have or against this man. And so before I went to bed, I had to list those, and there was 41 of those for my Jimbo. So the range was from, body image to, the whole gambit. And it just really reminds me of the leaves on the ground outside, right? There's so many of them. And as I look at the list, so if I look at the list of my judgments of other people, so how I've judged others as cruel, scary, embarrassing, charismatic, positive, grumpy, arrogant, violent, unhealed, selfish. So there's just this incredible list. And the experience of being honest about the fact that this is what comes up in me, this is what's in my mind as I go through the course of the day, right? And this list was done in, this amount of judgments, 132 labels on my day and labels on the people I come in contact with. If you were to have to manage that, which I think we try and do, I could just truly see what an impossible situation that is. What an impossible way of relating to your day. If it's just filled with labels of uncool, crazy, spoiled, a victim, disingenuous, that these are the things that as I come up against circumstances and people in my life, this is what it's colored with. And it's many, and it is certainly filled with unrest, and there's no sense of safety. It reminds me of many course lessons, right? That attack and defense, and how it leads to that sense of not being safe in this world. And we go looking for safety, and we're looking to the same mind that provided me this list, right? And I'm looking to the same mind for where to go to find safety, go into this same mind. And then that leads us into, more and more of the same. it multiplies more and more of the same. Judgment begets judgment. So the contrast to that is the idea of truly one, that there is no separate thoughts called unhealthy. I just keep referring to my list here. Passive, controlling, rich, poor, ignorant, better than, less than, dirty, pushover, people pleaser, once again, spiritual, unspiritual, all that kind of stuff, that there is no longer that, there is just the truth of who we are, which is love's presence. Go from a list of the combination of all these judgments in the course of one day. Go from that list of all those to the idea of one love. One energy that we call this love. And to rest in that, to be able to practice, because that's what we do here, practice setting aside the label that we hold as we come into contact with people, or come into contact with our own image in the mirror in the morning, or come into contact with circumstances that frighten us. And so we try and label it to, we think we're going to understand it better if we do that. But it continues to divide more and more. And creates the pain of separation. And doing the exercise and doing some of the reading around it, and I think I will most likely pull a little NTI out as well, because it all went together pretty well, gave me an experience of seeing how you can go from one to the other. And that's the challenge of this journey for me, where I'm at, is that I do have both of these. I have both of these experiences that often sit side by side in my mind on a daily basis. I have been given tools and grace and incredible teachings here at Awakening Together, where I have been able to have an experience of joining with the love that I am, and experiencing others as that love as well. So I have that experience, but then right next to it, I have the experience of 150 judgments walking around with me during the course of the day. And I get very frustrated with that reality for myself. And so my journey is one of just recognizing when I'm in the 150 judgments in whatever form that is taking, and recognizing that I can shift to the one that is quieter, that is softer, much gentler, that I can make that shift. And when I make that shift, I can receive some guidance about how to move through all the leaves that are falling on my lawn. I can move through that without being overwhelmed by it. So I learn those things here. And I have periods of time where I practice, right? I practice and I practice well. I go through periods of time where I practice and I practice well. And I will get more in touch with the love that I am and the love that you are. And then I will have a day or two where it all blows up. I mean, all blows up. I had a bad behavior day yesterday. So this is the frustration that I go through. I had an ego attack yesterday that was, I mean, one of the strongest ones I've had in quite a while. And I was so filled with anger that I thought I would never, ever come out of it again, you know? And I often have those feelings when I'm in touch with love and I'm in that space and I remember who I am. And I have those moments and I think, I'll never leave this. Who would ever choose to leave this place? Who would ever choose to leave home? Right? So I had that experience before. And then this one was like, it was fearful that I'll never get back there. I'll never get back home. I was sure of it. And the more I fed into and focused on the attack thought, the injustice that I was going through, the fact that my husband does not ever listen to a word I say. I mean, that was what was being repeated over and over and over, because I've shared this stuff with him 1,001 times and still doesn't get it. So the more I thought about that, then the more defects showed up of him, right? It just multiplied like leaves. So when I finally settled down, because NTI is about willingness right now, the reading that I'm doing is about just being willing, right? Just, can I come up with willingness to even pause and ask for some help here, to humble myself and ask for some help, because I am in over my head and it's painful. And I have a tendency to lash out and hurt people when I do that. And that is only hurting me, right? That's the judgments I'm judging him for. I'm also just reinforcing in myself. And so what came to me when I did finally pause and ask was a memory and a kind of, it was strange. It was like a little meditation with the circus in the meadow from Inner Ramana. And I hope I can explain it. It's coming up to try and explain it, so I'm going to give it my best effort. But once again, it's like my brain gets quicker than my heart, so I don't always communicate exactly what I'm trying to communicate. But in this little image, there was this idea that, okay, so you've had a negative interaction. That negative interaction has taken you into the circus tent, right? So that's where I have entered the circus of my mind. And I have all these judgments going on about the interaction that Jim and I just had, and that he doesn't listen, and that, this will never work. We've been doing this stuff for 20 years. It's an old argument and I'm tired and all that stuff. So I've gotten into the circus tent. And then with every judgment that I hold of him, it's like there's an opening and I get another you know how they talk about circuses being 3 rings, right? So there's 3 different things going on. And so every judgment I make about him and myself and the circumstance opens up another ring, basically. So we get this other room in this tent. And so that takes me into that room, right? And so it builds from there. And then I have another judgment on myself, and it opens another room. And so pretty soon we've got 150 rings going in a 3-ring circus, right? So it's just huge. And it's just, but it's in the one tent, right? It's in that one tent that really was limited, but it just appears to be expanding into these other rooms and these other circles, right? And each one adds more and adds more and adds more. So all of a sudden, I think I'm in a place, I am lost in this circus, right? I can't remember how I got back. It just seems to be expanding more and more and getting louder and crazier all the time. So then what I was shown was that if I could take a bird's eye view of the circus tent outside. So I go and I'm flying above, and the further back I get, I can see that this circus, that when I'm in the tent, it expands multiple times. It just goes and goes. It's like a universe of itself. And as I am in that more and more, I forget, and I take this, I was given this view of above it, right? And it's a pinprick. The circus tent is a pinprick, and all around it is that luscious, green, pure, beautiful meadow all around it. And the size of the meadow relative to the pinprick of the tent blew my mind, right? It just was like, are you kidding me? That pinprick is where my attention, my focus, my time, and my energy is being spent. And there is nothing of value in there. And so when I'm in the tent, the quickest way to backtrack and not, because see, what I want to do is I want to play with the thoughts, justify the thoughts, dink around with all that stuff instead of just getting out of the tent. I don't have to go back through the tent the same way. At that moment, I can just get out of the tent. I can see the tent as the small pinprick in the middle of the meadow and remember that I really do desire meadow. When I'm in the tent, and with all that distraction and all that activity, when I'm in there, I think that's what I want. I think that I want to get that solved. I think I want whatever is in there. And it's not even just that I think I want it. It's when I'm in that, I think it is, well, I think without it, I will die. I mean, that is the kind of drive that is behind trying to sort that stuff out. That is, and the truth is, I mean, when you step out of the tent, right, and you're looking at it from bird's eye view, and it's this teeny tiny little pinprick. It's there. I mean, there is some reality to the fact that it's there, but it is so small compared to what's going on in the meadow. And even I've often thought I want to do a homily sometime about what's going on in the meadow, because I think even in that writing of Inner Ramana, it talks about what's going on in the circus. It will say, and there's some pretty cool stuff happening in the meadow as well. And that stuff that's going on in the meadow is the stuff of practice here, right? The stuff that's going on in the meadow is the laying aside of the judgment, of joining with there is no love but God's love. That's the meadow. That's where we are truly who we are, and not pretending to be all these other things in the circus tent. I think Way of Mastery describes the pinprick of the circus tent as being a little gnat. It talks about it being a little gnat that just, it's like how you can be in in all of your house trying to get some rest some night, and that mosquito finds you in all that space. It just hones in and finds you, and it's teeny tiny, but once again, it can take your entire awareness and focus and energy in any given moment, because you think you're threatened, right? Your sleep is threatened. You don't want to bite. You don't want to itch. So we have to protect ourselves. So, I've been known to get up out of bed, turn the lights on really quick and see if I can find it on the wall. And I take my fly swatter and I tend to it. And that is certainly just Kelly that has to tend to that. So we have that gnat that is much like the circus tent. So I think ultimately the thing that I was shown in my exercise, which was very helpful to me, was that it is, even though problems seem many, our distractions seem overwhelming at times with all the things that we need to manage, feelings and thoughts and all that stuff of being human. And it's can seem challenging and overwhelming. It is small. It is a pin prick. It is small. So it's not many. It's one problem. I love 500 Days. I'm a big fan. Another video that we recently watched was on distraction, and it was a beautiful way to view. We do think of distraction as being when we find a desire that takes our time and attention, right? Whether that's looking at real estate or looking at new relationships or looking at a new job, we think we're distracted. Or we think of the distractions from, watching TV or whatever. We think of those kinds of things. And the reality was that our very life and the fact that we're living this thing that we think is an individual life is the distraction. And that was a bit of a mind blower to me, right? It's not about these little things that we get attracted to and we go after. It's really our life itself that is the distraction. And healing of that, or the what's the word? The healing of that, the correction of that, probably more than anything else. The correction for that is in the practice of laying aside these judgments and these labels and this idea that problems are many. It is another course lesson that comes to mind is there is one problem, right? There's one problem, and that problem is, I think I'm a separate entity. And that's all. And when we have this idea that we think we are separate individuals and we feel that sense of separation, it is that energy, it is that it's pain in whatever form it takes. It's pain, it is anxiety, it is loneliness, it's alienation, it's attack, it's hatred, it's all that stuff. We feel that pain, and the ego wants to eliminate that. So its solution is to create more of that. And that's the destruction. And the correction of that is that love, is that one sense that is the rest and the peace of who we are. One problem, Kelly. One solution, God. And another thing, even in just this idea of reading this lesson again, when I was reminded that when I first hopped on this journey, it was with A Course in Miracles, and I remember having a powerful experience with this lesson and understanding that there isn't this separate way to love different people, right? It was that the love that when I'm in that sense of love, when I'm in that place of knowing who I really am, that experience and what flows from me and is exchanged with you and back to me, that's all the same. It doesn't feel any different for my mother. It doesn't feel any different for my husband. It doesn't feel any different for coworkers. Nothing. It is the same exchange and the same sense of being okay. That I am and whoever is appearing in front of me is as well. It's the same. And so I remember reading this title of this lesson, There Is No Love But God's, and it switched quickly in my mind. And this is part of it is, the teachings of NTI and Regina's teachings of the Four Principles of God, is that I read it this time and it was just that there is no love but God, right? And that told me that I have made some progress. I used to live in this idea of individual separate from me, and it was God's love. And then here I was, this separate Kelly. And then I finally went, there is no love but God. And that's all of it, right? That's the meadow, all of it, and everything happening in that little teeny tiny pinprick of the tent is also just God. And it's truly is just a matter of where I want to put my attention and my focus. So there's not many, many problems. There's one. And that's me. That's Kelly. All right. I think that's all that's come through today. All right. We are going to play another song right now, and then this is the time when you can contribute to Awakening Together and donate if you feel guided to. And there will be a link, I believe. Simon will put a link in the room if you want to. Go ahead and do that. So this song is called Worry No More. Thank you. That was beautiful. All righty. Well, we have about 5 minutes if anyone wants to hop in and say hi. I want to give a thanks again to Sina and Wanda for reading. And so nice to see you here. And it was just nice to see so many faces. And that's all I got. So does anybody else want to hop in and share? Regina. Cozy Regina.
Yeah, sitting out here on the back porch. Hopefully there's not too much distortion from the wind as I speak. I know sometimes that makes a noise with the mic. It's good? Mm-hmm. Okay. I just wanted to tell you that your sharing was brilliant, but I also want to tell you that over time your sharings are becoming more and more brilliant. And I want you to know that. This was so clear, so right on, so perfect. I think you're a marvelous teacher. That's what I want to say. I think you're a marvelous teacher. And I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that because, the way I remember it, my memory is often off. But the way I remember it, at least when you used to first take the mic, you might have thought that you were inadequate as a teacher. And that's certainly not true, at least not now. You're very clear. You're very direct. Your train of thought is a perfect line from the beginning to the middle to the end. And so I just felt to comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. I appreciate that. Thank you. We are out of time, so I'm going to turn back the mic to Sina. Love you all. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.